So Britty Murawinski is on the podcast today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How's your day going?
It's going good. I just came from the coffee shop.
Nice.
And now I'm here, and then I got to cater, and then I like to save my afternoons for the kids.
Busy day.
Busy day.
Yeah, full day.
I like to be busy.
So like we were just talking about, like you have a lot going on.
A little bit.
For the people that are watching on YouTube, you said you're about 3 weeks out from your third child.
Yeah, so we're really cutting it close.
Yeah.
I said I'm going to work until I can. Keeps me distracted. So.
Yeah, there you go. So you are the owner of Little Brew Play Cafe, Pop-Up Picnic Girl, and then you also the Union Collective, which we'll talk about as well.
Absolutely.
So let's just take a step back from all that and like your background. How did you get into being a business owner? Like, tell me what led you into all this?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of a creative type, never done well in a group setting. That doesn't sound like I work well with others.
So you don't like...
But I don't, I always, I have an idea and I kind of want to execute it. And that's kind of was a big catalyst for me to not work in a traditional setting. I did go to school for... couple different things, music education, nursing. Never found that I could work with the schedule. I always needed my own flexibility, and I just had like too many stirring ideas on how I could work.
Did you ever like work at nursing? Okay, so you did. Okay.
Yeah, I worked in labor and delivery, and it's just not my thing.
Okay.
Realized it was just too rigid for me.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I get an idea and I want to like run with it. And working a full-time 40-plus hour a week job didn't really give me enough flexibility to do that.
Sure.
And so my first kind of run around at business was Pop-Up Picnic Girl.
Okay.
And I was looking through Pinterest and things that were trending online, and I noticed that charcuterie was really starting to trend. Now this was like almost 3.5 years ago. And I told my husband, I said, I can make that cheese board. That's not that.
I could do that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that crazy of a concept. I could put this together. And he's like, well, then do it. I said, okay. So he went to work, and I made a Facebook post on a group on the town that we were currently in with our RV. And within, I want to say like 7.5 hours, by 10 p.m. that night, I had sold $10,000 worth of cheese boards.
Your first post?
My first post went like berserk in this like mom's group.
Crazy.
And I freaked out, I had no pricing structure. I had no, it was not, I thought maybe like a couple of moms might reach out, like, sure, I'm having a birthday, can you,
Yeah.
And I called my husband. I was like, I'm freaking out. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going to source this food. Like, I don't have like a license. Like, this is a mess.
Yeah.
So I
scrambled. What did I get myself into?
Yeah. So I had to scramble and figure it out, which I did. And luckily he has a good business background. He was able to help me through some things. And we have a lot of good business mentors in our life. And I said, look, I made this post and now I'm in this. So we're making cheese boards.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that kind of just snowballed into what is Pop-Up Picnic Girl. And from that point, we've been mobile catering. And we've realized that we really need a storefront.
Okay.
And we need a place where it's a home base. Helps with brand awareness. It helps with, when you're a mobile caterer, you have to rent kitchen space. It's not your own. It can be difficult to work with other caterers in that space. You have to share fridges, prep rooms, things like that. So we found an opportunity once we got to Florida for a local food hall that's opening downtown Dunedin. And they said, hey, we are specifically looking for a charcuterie company. Are you interested?
Yeah.
And I said, sign me up.
Yeah.
So the build process, it was a brand new construction, so it took a lot longer than we were anticipating.
Okay.
However, we're finally making a lot of strides, and we're really close.
That's cool.
So that's exciting.
So I'm 3 years in, mobile to storefront.
To storefront.
Yeah. And what's the, I think what's interesting about like that little part of your story is most people probably would have been afraid to start or like put that out there with nothing set in place.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's part of what it takes to be successful.
And I've learned that it takes a lot of risk to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we used to listen to this podcast, my husband and I, on our long RV road trips, and it's called How I Built This. It's a podcast where they interview successful business owners, and you would never know these nationwide brand names, and how they got their start, and what they were really doing on the back end, and how they failed, and they were in like thousands of dollars of debt and all this crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember like kind of hearing that replay in my head, and that's what made me like make that post.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's the worst that could happen? I get nothing.
Right. Nobody buys anything.
Nobody buys any cheese.
Yeah.
But they bought cheese.
Yeah.
And they're still buying cheese.
Yeah.
So it's proven that people like charcuterie boards.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what's the idea behind the storefront, and like why is that important to you?
The storefront's important for one. There are a lot of charcuterie companies popping up, and that's great. I like to not look at other similar business models as so much competition, but just other forms of art, other artists. Every charcuterie company kind of has their own look, own vibe, kind of thing like that. But what would set us apart would be to have a place where you could come in and order a board on the spot versus messaging somebody through their mobile ordering or Instagram or Facebook. And there's a demographic of people, even though we are moving so forward into tech, there's a group of people that like to just go into a place and order something.
Yeah.
And I would love to capture that market. And I would love to have that one-on-one personal experience with customers. And I really think that it's going to set us apart. So the storefront's important to me because it gives us that differentiation from other companies, as well as brand awareness. The more you drive by and see something all the time, you're more likely to go try it.
Yeah, and stop in and say hello.
Yeah.
So most of the charcuterie businesses are mobile or online. Like, you don't have like a physical location.
Correct. I do know of one in Wesley Chapel area, and they're doing great. So that's awesome. Yeah. But again, I think there's enough need in this area for another kind of concept.
For sure.
Another, similar but different. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we'll have a couple different sizes that you can just walk in, grab and go. We'll also continue all of our normal catering where we come to your house or your event. Set up like a long charcuterie table. Yeah. But it would just be nice to, say, hey, I'm having the girls over tonight. And then just go run by, pick up a charcuterie board. It's going to feed everybody. It's going to look awesome. Yeah. I don't have to think about it. Right. Simple. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So like what goes into, like I've seen some of your photos of like the massive tables of charcuterie and stuff. Yeah, they're so fun. Yeah. Like how long, it's crazy. We've gotten it down to an hour, for per 100 people. So we did one yesterday for 100 people in elementary school. It took us an hour. Used to take us a lot longer. We have obviously staff now, which is great. So I'm not doing it by myself for one. And we've just kind of gotten a system down. It's funny because that first post that we were just talking about, somebody had booked a 300-person cheese board within that first post that I made. And I think it maybe took me like 3.5, 4 hours. I was like, I had no process. I hadn't, nothing was refined. There was really no business model, but now we've gotten to a point where we know, we slice the bread, we put the bread on. Everything is portioned out. There's a method to it now. So we are efficient. So is it like what about the design of it? Like, is that already set? Like you order like this design and so you can customize your board. So a lot of people do ask for, like, we've had a Lion King birthday theme. Okay. Can you make everything look tropical and things like that? And we'll work with customizations. As far as doing super intricate customizations, it's just me and one other girl that I've found has like a very similar eye. Okay. Kind of gift, I want to say. She has like the right placement of things. We do have like a standard board, standard look that you could just order. You're going to have 20 plus people, something like that. So it's going to look the same. But the specialty ones are really fun. We did, for Mosey in Tampa, we did planets made out of cheese. We did like Swiss cheese moons and prosciutto Saturns and things like that. So you can customize it. And then it would be, as of right now, me or one other girl. If you order our standard, then we have, staff equipped to do that. Handle all that. And like the creative side, that's what you enjoy, like creating these different boards. Yeah. I'm not I don't like the numbers. I don't like inventory. I don't like doing any of the stuff that actually makes you succeed or make money. I just want to like play with cheese and make it look pretty, and put the herbs in and like make it look right. But I've learned that that's just as important as, or that the business part is just as important as the creative. Yeah. And so I now have people that help me with those things because it's not my nature. Yeah, there you go. I like that.
I could keep going on about that business, but let's jump into Little Brew Play and talk about that, and because that's another unique concept, like we've talked about before, to our area anyway. Absolutely. But
and we even sell charcuterie there.
There you go.
Yeah. So it kind of all fits together. When we were making the menu, I told my business partner who, was kind of open to any ideas for the menu. I said, I have to put it out there. Like, can we put at least one charcuterie board on the menu?
Yeah. It only makes sense.
It only makes sense.
Yeah. So where did this idea come from, and why start? When did you start this business? Like, why start a second one? Yeah.
That's a good question. I started it in October of 2022, and most people that I knew said it was like a horrible idea, and I'd probably be spread too thin, and I'd probably like crash and burn. And if I'm being totally honest, like I had like tearful nights and struggles, and like, this
just
probably is too much.
Oh
yeah. And like even leading up to, opening, like, you're right, this is too much, things like that. And doubting myself, doubting the idea, things like that. Like, would it work? All those questions that come into starting something new.
For sure.
But I truly believe that this area needed something like this. I have seen similar concepts in other places that we've traveled over the U.S., predominantly on the West Coast. They were really popular. I mean, so popular that you might drive maybe 10 minutes and you'd see 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. And I was predominantly at home still, even though I was running Papa Picnic Girl with my kids, And it's like, where can I go? Like, I want them to play. I'd like to interact with other people, other moms, dads, caregivers, whatever. Maybe I could like answer a few emails, do things like that, kind of,
get some work done, but also
but not feel like I'm just like totally pushing my kids to the side. I want them to have a pleasant day with me. Yeah. And so we moved into a house, and our neighbor across the street, her name is Darian. She had kind of in passing mentioned, I really want to open a coffee shop one day. And I said, oh, you do? Because I really want to open a coffee shop, but it's not probably the coffee shop you're thinking. I think, her original business idea was more of a traditional, just coffee hangout, geared towards adults. I said, well, hear me out. I said, you're a mom of 4 kids. You might resonate with this. I have 2. What if there's a coffee shop that we could take our kids and we can drink coffee, we can like hang out, it's comfy couches, it doesn't feel like a stiff plate, like bounce kind of wild, like overstimulating environment. It's like kind of calm, there's toys, and it also has great coffee. Like, it's a great idea. I would go there. Yeah. And she's like, I would totally do that. And so sure enough, within like, I had literally met her maybe a couple months I knew her. Yeah. And then we decided to look for a place. And she's like, okay, well, we'll take our time, and, we'll go slow. And I called her. I said, I just drove past this little blue house in Palm Harbor. Yeah. And it's so cute. And it just reminds me of like a playhouse. Yeah. And she's like, okay, like, I'm listening. I'm like, just meet me here. And I called the realtor, and we, looked through, and I said, it has to be ours. It's just like has a cool feel, because we had looked at plazas and just kind of colder to me buildings that I felt like would need a lot of work to really charm it up. Has no character. This had all of that built in, and it was in a cute location, and we both live like a mile from the shop. And so I said, look, we just gotta jump on this, because there's obviously other parties interested. I said, let's just get on it right now and take the risk. And we opened up 45 days later. So crazy. Yeah. So was it scary? Like, I mean, all right. So yeah, there's a lot to be nervous about and, doubtful about, right? Like a new concept. You're going into business with somebody you barely even know. You're getting a lease on a location, right? And no proof of concept. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. Yeah. both of a good chunk of our savings.
I'm sweating just like thinking about all that.
Yeah, but I've always found that. I mean, it's just a mentality I've kind of always grown up with. My family ran businesses, and they always drilled into me and my siblings that you'll always regret like these choices that you didn't try to do.
Yeah.
And go for it.
Yeah.
Worst case is it fails and you close and you figure it out and you get back up and you keep working. And so I know that's a hard concept for a lot of people to come to terms with. But
why do you think that is? Like, why do you think it's, is it, why?
I think it's scary to put your, like, what feeds you, I mean, if I'm talking from a monetary standpoint, it's scary. If you have kids, I mean, it was a strain on my marriage, it's a straining thing to say, look, I'm taking all this money that we've ideally set aside for an emergency or our kids, something happens to one of our kids, or, I'm going to use it for this idea that may or may not work. It's scary to not have some sort of like nest egg or financial security.
Something to fall back on.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It makes everything feel unstable.
Yeah. So do you think because you grew up in that environment, like that lends you to like being able to?
I think so. I was raised with the idea that you can always come back from something.
Yeah.
It might take a lot of really hard work and you might have some really low lows, but ultimately if you work hard, you can get yourself out of a problem that at least you tried. At least you tried.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I don't want to be retired and my kids are all grown. I say, I really just wish I would have tried that.
Yeah.
It's a hard,
I've heard that before.
Regret.
It's like, I think that, whether it's like a video clip or from a book or something, it's like one of the biggest regrets people have that are lying on their deathbed. It's like, I wish I, would have spent more time with family, or I wish I would have taken this opportunity and or tried this and that sort of stuff. So,
and it's not to say that you don't have doubt. Like I said, I mean, we still have, ups and downs, and it's like, oh God, why did I do this? Now I got to figure out another problem. Right.
Yeah.
But ultimately I do think it all works together for the good.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of started the podcast too is, I grew up not in a household that had business owners or anything like that. It was more just like, go to college, work your 9 to 5. And for whatever reason, like I read a book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that like flipped my mindset around and wanted to explore real estate or explore being a business owner. So growing up, I always wanted to be a business owner. I never knew what it was, but I always
have that desire.
Yeah. And I always thought that business owners had like some special gift or whatever it was. Right. And then like starting in real estate, starting this podcast, and just like what you've gone through, like we're all the same. Yeah. Like we all have our doubts and struggles.
So yeah.
There's just the business owner just took that risk and did it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will say like, how do you manage like multiple businesses in your family, and like, it's a daily thing. I mean, I don't have a plan, so to speak. I mean, I try, but you just believe that it's going to work out, and you work really hard. You work a lot of hours, and sometimes you don't sleep great, and but it's you work towards your goal and you don't give up. I think that's a huge key is not giving up.
For sure. So how do you define work-life balance, and like how do you manage that for yourself?
I feel very lucky because my husband also works from home and works for himself, which if he didn't, I'm not sure, how we would balance it as well. Yeah. Because we do take it's basically 50-50 as far as, or 100-100 as people say. Sure. He does just as much as I do as far as the kids, and we just pick up where the other person can't. And we try and be as respectful as possible of the other person's schedule, their needs, and having things organized and written out can really help. Things like that. Just being on top of, look, this is what I need this week from you, vice versa. Like, what do you need from me? Communication. Where can we pick up, what can I help you with? Versus, just like, look, this is what I'm doing, you figure out your side. Just really teamwork. It's huge. Yeah. And there's days I feel guilty, and like my son this morning, he was hysterical going to school. I'm not sure what it was. He was just having a day, and if I didn't work, I probably would have just like, let's just have a day, me and you.
Yeah.
And there's moments that I wish I could do that, right? But ultimately, I know that, this afternoon we'll come back together and we'll talk about whatever happened this morning, why he was so upset. And there are little sacrifices you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like when we are with our kids and when we are as a family, we give it our all. We really make that important. And every night, we're going to have dinner together. We're going to do this together. And you just make that effort.
Yeah.
Otherwise, things can snowball into like just all over the place.
Yeah.
Because everybody has needs, it's like. For
sure. Yeah. Managing, I think it's different for everybody, right? But I think you hit on the head, like just communicating.
Yeah.
That's probably the most important thing, and having a plan too.
Yeah. It's key. You got to talk about every little detail.
Yeah. Yeah.
As simple as like, look, I need some just downtime tonight. Like, can you do this? Can you do this household task or chore or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be the smallest thing. Like, can you just unload the dishwasher?
Yeah.
I know that's usually like I do that on Wednesday or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But tonight I need like a mental space or something.
I need a break.
Yeah. And so we help each other out. And that's, for me, in my personal experience, given me a lot of ground to stand on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very appreciative of a partner who supports me and vice versa.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about the Dunedin Collective a little bit.
Yeah.
And your, I guess, third business.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in that? And like, what's your goals there?
So the Dunedin Collective is run by me and then my friend Ryan. And we kind of stumbled upon it, honestly. We were doing a photo shoot for Papa Picnic Girl, and our photographer had mentioned how the previous owner of the Dunedin Collective was looking to get out of it, and they still had, dreams for it, but it just wasn't working out. And we kind of realized that our dreams kind of aligned with it. I had small businesses, and I felt like it could support and kind of help my small businesses as well, because the original goal of the Dunedin Collective was to promote small businesses and support them. And I said, well, as a small business owner, like this could kind of have like a triangle effect with all of my businesses. They could help each other out and promote events and things like that are happening. So Ryan and I bought it, and we kind of stuck with the original goal and values that were given to us upon purchasing. We ran a couple of successful events and really enjoyed doing it. And then we kind of realized maybe we could branch off just a little. And, the name itself kind of felt like it was constricting us a little, just being the Dunedin Collective.
Sure.
Only because there's so much to offer in the whole area that's not specific to Dunedin. Mm-hmm. So we've been working on kind of like rebranding, restructuring, and not just supporting Dunedin, and not just supporting super small businesses, but just the local scene in general. There's local businesses that would be at this point probably considered not necessarily a small business. Maybe not be something that works out their home, but they're still an integral part of the community, and they're still a part of, who we are here to live in like the Tampa Bay area. Yeah. So we just kind of like broaden that horizon so that we're not so kind of
Dunedin only.
Yeah. It just seemed like the natural progression. We were meeting so many people, and like, okay, well, not everybody is, it's not just Dunedin, Right. And I said, even my, coffee shop, it's Palm Harbor. Yeah. And there's so many other places, and there's people now that are, opening up, they have small business here, but they also like do things in Tampa, and there's plenty of things that we could promote and work with in just the area as a whole. So that's kind of what we're working on right now. It's kind of just restructuring slightly. The concept is still the same, supporting each other, local events, kind of giving people like the lowdown on what you should do around town, things like that. So yeah, and that's kind of just it's a fun part of, the business. Like out of the three, I think it's more of like a hobby. Like we love to be out and about. Like we both like to be social. Yeah. There's a lot of like local events that we would go to anyway. Yeah. So it's like, why don't we create our own? Yeah. So it's been like a fun project. I try and not make it too serious. I need like one project that, you know, there's more fun to it. So
yeah. So what, so do you have like out of those 3, like what's next? Like, do you,
oh God.
do you have other ideas? Like,
yeah, but I try not to like think about them. Like I want all these things, you know, like, and I'm like, maybe I'm growing up or something, but I've learned like I'm going to like perfect what I've got right now.
Yeah, right.
Versus giving everything a little.
That's what I was going to ask. It's like, at what point do you,
Yeah.
do you say like, okay, I'm going to put all my effort into the cafe or the, you know, pop-up picnic?
And luckily, you know, Little Brew has, you know, I have a great co-owner.
Yeah.
And so that really is peace of mind. It gives me a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
Then where like the sole responsibility of Pop-Up Picnic Girl lies on me. So that's kind of a helpful, whatever you want to call it, tool.
Yeah. Right.
To keep everything kind of in check. But I don't want to give anything just a portion of my time. I want to give everything as best as I can. You know, I like to do something in full.
Yeah.
And I've learned that I can't do it all. So though I have like other dreams and I'm always like, oh, I could do this, or I could do this.
Yeah.
Luckily, not only do I have other voices and people, but I have now my own voice.
Yeah.
Being like, you're good.
Pump the brakes
just chill.
Bit. Yeah.
You're going to be fine.
That's funny. All right. So I want to wrap up with this last question.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not working any of your businesses, when you're not with your family, or I guess with your family, but like, what is one place you like love going to? So it could be like a local park, another local business in your downtime.
We are at Honeymoon Island probably 3-4 times a week.
Yeah. My
kids love the beach. They're really into swimming. We like to kayak. Cool. My husband likes to be on water. We're very like, coming from Oregon, we were always doing outdoor sports. So there are obviously different sports here, but we were always snowboarding, surfing, doing something outdoors. Yeah. So that's pretty much the bulk of our down kind of hangout time is at the beach. It's funny because when we moved here, I met so many people. Like, yeah, like sometimes I go to the beach. Yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna live here. We're gonna go to the beach. Yeah. Like we go to the beach a lot, and it just, I don't know. I just find it funny. It's so true. I think like I grew up here in Florida, and I think you just take it for granted. Yeah, it must be. But every time I drive by, and like yesterday morning, I went to the Causeway and just sat there like on the way to work for like 5-10 minutes. I'm like, this is amazing. Long. Yeah, and it's just good for your soul. Yes. You know, it's like, yeah. So. Well, awesome. Britty, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Yeah, thanks for having me. To learn more about your stuff. So we'll link all of your businesses and social media and stuff in the description below. Absolutely. And we do have a big grand opening coming up on May 21st for Little Brew. Okay. Now that we've been in business for 6 months, we're kind of having a big celebration. It's cool. So I think it will be really fun if families want to come by. Yep. May 21st, downtown Palm Harbor. Yes, 3 to 5. Live music, we've got food. Sweet. Everything is complimentary. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. You're welcome. No problem.